At 8 o'clock every evening, the front doors lock. The patrons leave, the overhead shut off, and the library settles into a heavy silence. All that remains is the low electrical hum of emergency lighting stretching across the empty rows. The only person left inside the building is Emma. She works the night shift security desk, spending her hours anchored to a single pool of light from her desk lamp, keeping a lonely vigil over a building supposed to be empty. But every single night, exactly at 12:07 a.m., a book is returned to the overnight drop box. A physical object enters a locked facility, bypassing every deadbolt and alarm in place. A locked door represents a controlled environment, a boundary that defines what is possible inside. When an object appears within that space without a trace, that sense of control evaporates. For 3 straight weeks, Emma combed through the security footage. She isolated the camera pointed directly at the interior return slot, scanning for a prankster, a glitch, or a maintenance worker she might have missed. The tapes showed no one. Instead, they recorded a physical impossibility. The book didn't slide down the chute or drop from the metal flap. One frame, the bin was empty. The next, the book was simply there. The object itself offered no explanation. It had a solid black cover. There was no barcode to scan, no title printed on the spine, and no author listed anywhere on the binding. There was exactly one identifying mark, a small white sticker clinging to the cracked faux leather with a short typed sentence, "Property of Section 9. Emma wasn't looking at a security breach. She was looking at a total failure of physical laws, captured in grainy high definition. Emma pulled the historical records for the library. She spent hours cross-referencing old building blueprints, archived town documents, and past organizational charts, searching for any mention of the department on the label. The library has always used a standard 8-section layout. From the original 1920s plans to the recent renovations, Section 9 has never existed. Left with an artifact from a place that doesn't exist, Emma finally opened the cover. The very first page was blank, except for a single handwritten warning. Do not read tomorrow's entry. Blueprints and records had reached a dead end. There was no longer a way to analyze the book from the outside. The only path left was to engage with its contents. She turned the page anyway. Printed neatly at the top of the paper was tomorrow's date. Beneath it was a transcript of her upcoming day. It documented the specific phrasing of a coworker's greeting, the exact time she would spill her coffee, and every minor decision she would make, written entirely word for word. Emma slammed the cover shut. She physically pushed the book to the edge of the desk, trying to distance herself from the text. But the next 24 hours unspooled exactly as written. The spilled coffee, the precise small talk, the specific route she took to lunch. Every passing hour made her feel less like she was living her life and more like she was simply meeting a set of predetermined requirements. Living through a transcript turns every choice into a performance. By the time the sun set, Emma found herself hesitating before every move, wondering if she was acting on her own or just following the ledger. That night, Emma didn't sit at her desk. She stood directly beside the dark return slot, watching the digital clock on the wall take over to 11:59 p.m. The wait turned the simple passage of time into an excruciating countdown. At precisely 12:07 a.m., the silence of the library shattered. A violent, metallic clunk echoed from inside the dark bin. She reached into the bin, pulled the book out, and opened it. The text on the page didn't describe tomorrow. It described right now. Her eyes darted to the final paragraph of the entry. It laid out a specific, immediate prediction. At 12:19 a.m., Emma will look behind her. Knowing exactly what is supposed to happen in the next 60 seconds doesn't offer a way out. It creates a state of paralysis, where the clock on the wall becomes a countdown to an event she is already supposed to have completed. Emma slowly lowered the book. The library was completely dark. She glanced at the clock. It read 12:18. A single sound broke the stillness. Somewhere in the shadows, directly behind her, a floorboard creaked. The clock ticked to 12:19. She squeezed her eyes shut, locking her neck in place. She desperately refused to turn around, trying to prove the page wrong by simply standing still. Then she felt the paper in her hands shift. Fresh ink began bleeding into the parchment, forming a final sentence. She looked anyway. The ledger didn't just predict the night, it claimed it. In Section 9, stories aren't written by authors, they are harvested from the people who look.